After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Oh shit, those are fighting words. Look, I'll be honest with you. He basically put a line in the sand politically. Now, is he also going to put a line in the sand towards the rest of the Democratic Party? Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys here. Well, it has happened. Zohran Mamdani is now the next mayor of New York City. Of course, I talked about this in a preview from yesterday's live stream, and we actually talked about what may happen, whoever wins, how it may be effective for New York. And so we were actually watching with anticipation. I was on Savvy Sav's podcast last night to look at the results that were coming in. And truth be told, it was looking pretty positive the moment I joined. It was pretty positive as far as the numbers for Mamdani. The numbers were pretty much stayed around close to or just over 50%, no matter where. So one of the things I want to do is I want to go first to the concession speech from Andrew Cuomo. Sorry, Chris is his little brother. But let's get into Andrew Cuomo, his concession speech, and then we will get into Zohran Mamdani's acceptance speech, as well as the exit poll numbers that I want to get into. And it's going to be very interesting to take a look at that. So let's take a look here.
First, let me, I love you too. I love you too. Let me acknowledge part of my special campaign team. We have from the right, Telef Lundaval, the new son-in-law, husband of Mariah. We have Mariah, Cara, Michaela. I want to thank our campaign chairman, Bill Mulrow, our great campaign manager, Greg Goldner. This campaign was the right fight to wage. And I am proud of what we did and what we did together. This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country. And this coalition transcended normal partisan politics. It brought together Democrats and Republicans and independents, joined by the simple fact that their first allegiance is as citizens of New York City.
So let's stop here for a second, because I think it is quite interesting how he talks about bringing together Democrats and Republicans. Because ultimately, Andrew Cuomo was not real opposition. And it shows because even after losing the primary, I want you guys to reflect on the fact that Andrew Cuomo lost twice. He lost the primary, the Democratic primary, against Zohran Mamdani, because Democrats didn't want him. And now he lost again. Well, technically he won a private life, but he lost again because New Yorkers collectively said, we don't want you. And I think that's really important. And he didn't provide real, true, substantive opposition to the Republican Party. And so him running as a independent instead, he felt like, oh, well, I'll just be the anti-Mamdani candidate instead of actually providing something for people to vote for. For all my critiques of Zohran Mamdani, one thing that he did do well was that he stayed on message and he also gave people something to vote for. And it wasn't for something abstract. It was for concrete, tangible policies that would actually help working people. As the old adage goes, it's the economy, stupid. And unfortunately, for Andrew Cuomo, he wasn't really focused on that in a real tangible way. He was focused more on the suburban Staten Island type of people who already own their home. They may have some property. And he was focused more on trying to make the middle class a little bit happier, the middle class and the affluent. But the majority of the people are working class, working poor, and impoverished. And for someone like them, Mamdani was the guy that was actually speaking to raising the floor for those who are suffering the most. So Zohran Mamdani was more of an opposition than someone like an Andrew Cuomo. Let's continue.
Two million voters, the largest number in modern political history, cared enough to show up in a municipal election. And 42% voted for us on an independent line. That is the highest percentage in modern history. Ironically, it is just higher than when Mario Cuomo got 40% on an independent line against Ed Koch in 1977.
By the way, Mario Cuomo is Andrew Cuomo's father. And so, yes, Andrew Cuomo is a nepo-baby. But with that, besides the point, is that, in my opinion, 41% of the votes in New York for someone with his history and with someone with the transgressions that he has incurred while in office is still way too high. 41%, even though he lost, is still too high, considering the fact that he has these sexual harassment allegations from 13 different women. The fact that he actually had a hand in murdering thousands upon thousands of elderly in nursing homes during the pandemic. And the fact that he also has a history of cutting Medicaid for New Yorkers as governor. But that being said, then there are a lot of people who still saw him as the safer option than Mamdani. And makes you wonder, who are these people? Now, the thing is that unfortunately, people were willing to look past some of these horrible things that Andrew Cuomo has done. This is the similar type of thought that is done by Democrats who voted for Kamala Harris, who helped lead and champion a genocide that's happening in Gaza. This is also like a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, who saw someone that is bigoted, as well as accused of multiple sexual assaults. And the fact is that they saw that as not a red line either. And so the people who voted for somebody like an Andrew Cuomo, well, there's not that much gulf between the ones who voted for Harris or Trump. And it also means that a lot of people who voted for Harris and Trump wanted to keep the establishment in place. Or there's some people that were fear-mongered into keeping the establishment in place because they would rather deal with the devil that they don't know. They rather deal with the devil they do know versus the devil that they don't know. So let's continue on.
It's also important to note that almost half of New Yorkers did not vote to support a government agenda that makes promises that we know cannot be met. We support an economy of jobs, of opportunity, of entrepreneurship. That's what New York is, and that's what New York must remain.
Now, in regards to the promises that can't be kept, that would work if there were promises for things that have never happened before. But as far as the freezing of the rents, that was done before. As far as making buses fare free, that's being done in many different cities. It's done here in Orlando. We have one that goes around downtown called the limo. You have the lime line, the grapefruit line, the orange line. So we have that. They just expand it. You have universal childcare that just passed in New Mexico. So if it's something that has already been done, that means it is attainable. So is Andrew Cuomo just blowing smoke up your behind? If you start coughing up soot, probably. Let's continue on.
We are a nation of laws, and we believe in law and order, and we need the police to keep society safe. We will not make the NYPD the enemy. We cherish our diversity, and we have no tolerance for discrimination of any kind by race, religion, sexual orientation, or creed. And we will not tolerate any behavior that fans the flames of anti-Semitism or diverse attacks.
So it's kind of interesting. A couple things in regards to the police. New York City Police Department, the NYPD, actually has one of the largest budgets in the world. In fact, if the NYPD were created into being an actual army, they would be one of the most funded armies on earth. So with that being said, that they actually do garner a lot of critique, especially from people who are regular citizens who are harassed by police on a constant basis, really just for minor things that really are pushed on people by poverty, because really poverty is, as poverty goes up, it is commensurate with crime, right? People commit crimes of desperation and lack of opportunity. But if you start to lessen the desperation and increase the opportunity, then crimes actually go down, which means the necessity for police actually goes down. And so this is why a lot of people, those of us who do believe in actually defunding the police, is actually important to do, because you're actually increasing public safety, because you're lessening the poverty that's associated with crime that is connected to it. With that being said, one thing I will critique Zohran Mamdani about is that he also says he doesn't believe in defunding the police. And while he does want to do policies that are community based, that focus on mental health, and instead of calling police, you call mental health experts in order to intervene in some of these cases. While that's being done, I do think that a lot of the money that is being given to the NYPD should be rerouted to different programs to lessen the poverty that's already been borne out within the city of New York. Because if you start to reroute that money towards the people who are the most underserved, then you also will lower the crime rate without having to give directly money to a bunch of thugs with guns and badges that are just going to lock people up just so that they can make a few extra overtime hours on their paycheck. And so this is why the similarities between Andrew Cuomo's defeat speech and Zohran Mamdani's victory speech, this part sounds very alike. And then on top of that, the saying that there's no room for bigotry and talk about praising diversity. Andrew Cuomo basically is doing a heel turn from what he did last week, when in reality, he was around people who were downing and basically talking against real diversity. And essentially, Andrew Cuomo either stayed silent or he continue to allow the bigotry to happen. So, and then also on top of that, the anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. In fact, Zionism itself is an anti-Semitic ideology because it actually puts Jewish people in danger. And so when it comes to being someone as pro-Israel and Zionist like an Andrew Cuomo, this means that Andrew Cuomo actually has no love for Jewish people. He does not care about Jewish people because he wishes to keep them in harm's way. And so this is one of the reasons why it is dangerous for somebody like an Andrew Cuomo to be mayor of New York City, because New York City is literally one of the most populous cities that for Jewish people. So in reality, Andrew Cuomo, just like Donald Trump and just like Kamala Harris, do not care about Jewish people. They are anti-Semites, as well as Arabs are also Semites. And so carrying or allowing or being tacit towards the Islamophobia is also anti-Semitic to people who are Arab within their regions. So let's continue on.
Our strength is our unity. Black, white, brown, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist. We are one. We are the family of New York. We believe in interconnection and mutuality and codependence. And you attack one of us, you attack all of us. That is what it means to be a New Yorker. No one and nothing will ever divide us. And this campaign was necessary to make that point. A caution flag that we are heading down a dangerous, dangerous road. Well, we made that point, and they heard us, and we will hold them to it. Also, my friends, feel proud because we accomplished the two important New York characteristics. We got up off the mat after the primary, and we made it a real race when the media had already commenced a coronation.
He wants to talk about a coronation. Meanwhile, I mean, look. You are the dude that they actually wanted. What are you talking about, coronation? You're speaking as if you were the underdog. You're not the underdog. You were governor of New York. Does anybody find this weird how he keeps talking about how he's an underdog when he's really the establishment? Doesn't make sense to me. And then on top of that, the amount of Islamophobia that was hurled Zohran Mamdani's way. I didn't hear any anti-Christian rhetoric regarding Andrew Cuomo. I didn't hear any anti-Italian rhetoric from Andrew Cuomo. Nothing at all. I didn't hear people fearmonger about Andrew Cuomo on corporate media. And so for him to make it seem like corporate media was embracing Mamdani, not really. So it seems kind of delusional to me. And I guess he's trying to, kind of, I guess, lick his wounds. But whatevs, Andrew. Whatevs.
And feel proud because we fought our hearts out and we left it all on the field.
No, you left it all on the field, all right.
Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani. No. That is not right. That is not right, and that is not us. That is not us. Tonight was their night, and as they start to transition to government, we will all help any way we can because we need our New York City government to work. We want it to work for all New Yorkers because our city is the greatest city in the world, and we will unite for New York City because we love New York City. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you. I love you for the fight you made, for the soul that you showed, and the example that you set. New York City heard us, and we will be the better for it. Thank you, and God bless you.
Tough crowd. Tough crowd when he thanked Zohran Mamdani and congratulated him. I mean, yeah. But that's who Andrew Cuomo was. Now, my critiques involving Zohran Mamdani, notwithstanding, is some of the heel turns he's done regarding foreign policy. However, the mayor of New York is not a position that determines any type of foreign policy. So a mayor may have some influence on foreign policy, but he does not have any determination on foreign policy. He does not vote on foreign policy. So it's all domestic, right? And so as far as the domestic policies of Zohran Mamdani that he was pushing for, I'm one of those people who says he didn't go far enough. But at the same time, for the working class, some of his policies are somewhat of a reprieve from the worsening that has been happening over the last few years. So can I really be mad at New Yorkers for choosing someone who ran as a Democrat, and I'm being very kind with the shaky on his foreign policy chops? Can I really be mad at them for voting for a Mamdani when really they don't want their rent to go up, when they want to be able to get to and from work without having to spend more money on a bus, when they want the child care that they need so that they may be able to, you know, get a little few more hours at work or be able to do more, you know, without having to put out an extremely huge amount of money just to be able to make sure their kid is taken care of. I can't fault the working class for that. Hell, you know, gun to my head, I would have to vote for somebody like that if they ran in Orlando. Especially if there was no third party or independent that was running to the left of a Mamdani-like candidate, I should say. I wouldn't be able to doubt that, especially when you got somebody like Andrew Cuomo that's running against them. And so I think that's one of the biggest issues, right? Is that, yes, you can critique Zohran Mamdani, but at the same time, people are trying to practice self-preservation, and they'll do whatever they can in order to do that. And if it means going with somebody that's running under the Democratic Party, if it means going with somebody that, in my view, has moderate policies, and to stave off somebody who would make things even worse, I can't blame them for it. So I want to get into Zohran Mamdani's his speech, his victory speech. Now, it's going to be kind of funny because somebody noticed something, and I noticed it afterward. They mentioned it. But let's get to this Zohran Mamdani's victory speech. I want to play it right from the beginning, and some of you with an ear for music would probably notice what's playing in the background. Okay, so the song that was playing was New York by Ja Rule. It's funny because one of the people who was against Zohran Mamdani and even offered him money to move and drop out of the race was 50 Cent. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, yes. And so for the victory, when Zohran Mamdani came out, he played Ja Rule instead. That was a shot at 50. that was some decent trolling there. That was some under the cover trolling right there. So I gotta give it to Zohran there. I gotta give it to him there. All right. Okay. Let's continue. Let's go over this. I'm not gonna be able to go over the whole thing for the sake of time, but I just want to talk about this speech a little bit.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
Quoting Eugene Debs? Okay, interesting. Now, me, I would have went with a Thomas Sankara. I probably would have went with a Che Guevara. But hey, nobody's perfect. Eugene Debs is definitely better than going with some exploitative capitalist, I'll allow it.
For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
So yes, Andrew Cuomo is part of a political dynasty. I mean, he's had family within government for what, the last 50, 60 years? And so the Cuomos have essentially been New York royalty. So for not only an unknown Muslim immigrant to beat a Cuomo is big. That's big. And not only he beat him, but he beat him twice. 2 times. First in the primary and then second in the general election. That's significant. Look, you got to give it to him. That's significant. But it also speaks to how economic policies and economic populism does move people in a very significant way. And for all the Islamophobia, for all the anti-communist and anti-socialist rhetoric that was being pushed day in and day out, he's still got to win. And it wasn't a barely eked out win, but it wasn't also a landslide. It was somewhere in between. What, about 9.5, 10 points? But just think about this. If he's able to achieve what he is trying to set out, or what he promised he would set out, give it 4 years, he might win in a landslide if he achieves the promises that he has set out right now. Let's continue.
I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change. A mandate for a new kind of politics. A mandate for a city we can afford. And a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you To the next generation of New Yorkers who refuse to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an $11.99 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall.
So this is when it's interesting. I did not know about Zohran Mamdani going on a hunger strike. And so he is an activist. He may not be, as far as policy, as far as I would want him to be, as far as I think he should be, but he is an activist. And so a lot of people saw that within him. And using those activism chops, those activism, the way he cut his teeth in activism, also pushed more in line of, you know, him being more victorious. And also when you're an activist, you're out in the streets more, you get to see, you know, people will see you more, which means people know you, right? And so they were able to see and know who Zohran Mamdani was. If there has been any type of evolution, they would have observed that. They would have said it. If he's consistent, then they would have, you know, then they point that out and they see that. And that also could have given him a bit of a jump as far as how many people knew him in New York. Surely not as many people, you know, as they know Andrew Cuomo, but it gave him a little bit of a bump. So let's continue.
Who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them. And it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, You have answered my calls, but I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did.
So we're going to skip a little bit forward because he's thanking campaign staff and family. So let's continue here.
Despite attack ad after attack ad, more than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible.
So this does sound like a very hope and change kind of speech, very Obama-esque, which internally I'm rolling my eyes at a little bit. Of course, as a politician, he has to kind of, give that poetic order type of speech, for a victory. But at the same time, it does remind me of Obama, and Obama had a lot of promise when he first came in, and then it went completely downhill because of his capitulation to the establishment. And so, make no mistake, do I think that Mamdani will capitulate to the establishment? In a few ways, yes. Do not sit here and think that he won't. But at the same time, people did try to stave off a disaster from Andrew Cuomo. So.
And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt.
So yeah, this speech is pretty big, and he has to kind of give this speech. There's one point that I do want to get to as well, and let me share that here.
Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power.
So I also want to make this abundantly clear. A lot of Jewish New Yorkers voted for Mamdani. A lot of them. So it goes without saying that despite his critiques of the state of Israel, he also has won over Jewish New Yorkers. Now, do I think that he should have been more forceful in his language in regards to resisting Israel and their genocide? Yes. I don't think he went far enough. At the same time, he garnered enough support that it got him to this point. And so, from what I can tell, he does support BDS. So there's that. So at the same time, he's not as militant in his language as I would like for him to be, but BDS is a positive improvement in that area.
No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election.
Another thing, also, by the way, because he does criticize the state of Israel as well as is for BDS, Zionism has lost for the most part. I mean, or at least has suffered a very significant defeat in New York. So anybody who thinks that Zionism is still salvageable at this moment, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. We have seen a genocide in front of our eyes for the last 2 years. So there's no turning back from that. And so this is why it is important, for us to, push more for a truly liberated and free Palestine now more than ever, because you have someone who, even though they're not far enough, they are further than what an Andrew Cuomo was.
This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour.
So he's actually referring to the class war. And so this is something I think that a lot of people need to keep in mind, right? People who don't have power like that are not your enemy, right? We're being pitted against one another just because somebody got just a little bit more than the rest of us. And it's only because the people in power allow that so that you can have a division. And that division means that we don't come together to be able to have a more just system. And so that is one thing that I think that Zohran is right about, is that we are constantly being pitted against one another. Look how many people who are working class that are actually against anybody getting SNAP benefits. That's also a result of class warfare, that the wealthy, the robber barons, the parasite class is waging on us, and you're convincing workers to be against workers and poor people. And that's the sad part. And so you're making $30 an hour and you're pissed off at somebody making $20 an hour just because they may receive some government subsidy or benefit. When in reality, if you're in someplace like New York, you're not mad at the people in Manhattan. That's like being here in Orlando and being mad at somebody in Pine Hills, when in reality, you should be mad at somebody in Windermere. Right? So it just goes without saying that that's how it should be. Yeah, we should be more united than what we are.
They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Oh shit, those are fighting words. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. He basically put a line in the sand politically. Now, is he also going to put a line in the sand towards the rest of the Democratic Party? Or is he going to turn into another AOC? That remains to be seen. But I think it is important to note that the ball's in Zohran Mamdani's court now. So the policies that he says that he wants to implement, it's in his court to push for. It's in his court to get past city council for. in order to be able to push for these for the poorest and most disenfranchised New Yorkers. Whether he accomplishes that or not is up to him. He has a lot of political capital right now because he will be within his first 100 days starting on January 1st. And we'll see. At the same time, like I said before, I said it yesterday, and I also said it on Sabby Sabs last night. Stay on his ass. Do not give him an inch. You push him further to the left. I'll put it to you like this. You ever try to push a tree down? Especially when the soil is dry and the roots are deep. Here in Florida, we know that if a hurricane comes and if it dumps a lot of water, then eventually that tree will topple over because the ground becomes saturated enough, it becomes softer, meaning that the tree can topple over. Now is not the time to push for people to chill and go back to sleep. Now is the time to push even harder for a complete change to a brand new system. Someone that is more malleable. It is not about reforming, but it's about somebody who is willing to stand aside when real dual power comes into play. We don't want reform. We need revolution. And we need somebody that's going to step to the side while that happens. Is Zohran Mamdani going to allow that? We shall see. One of the things that I do want to get into is I want to share as well poll results. So Zohran Mamdani won just over 50%. I want to go over this. This actually came out a few hours ago. These are some of the latest tallying of the numbers. So Zohran Mamdani, he won the race, of course. So it says here he won at 50.4% of the vote. Sorry, the way it's archived, it shows it kind of wonky there, but it's 50.4% of the vote he got. So there were 1,036,051 votes. Andrew Cuomo got 854,995 votes, which he got 41.6% of the vote. So like I said, the fact that somebody like Andrew Cuomo, with the history that he has, honestly is just, it really says a lot about people's willingness to look past some of the horrible things he's done, either out of fear or out of maintaining the status quo. So that's something that people should keep in mind. And then, of course, just over 140,000 people voted for Sliwa, and he polls at 7.1%. So over 2 million people voted, right? Taking a look at this map, and in the blue is Zohran Mamdani. So if you look at who dominated the Bronx, was Mamdani, and in Brooklyn, and in Queens. And then if you look at Staten Island, Mamdani didn't win as much. Now, it says 91 of the estimated vote total has been reported in New York. So not much left that will make much of a difference. Here is the result by neighborhood. Okay. So Upper East Side went to Cuomo overwhelmingly. So that's more of an affluent area. Upper West Side went slightly towards Mamdani. Bed-Stuy went overwhelmingly to Mamdani, right? And I think Bed-Stuy is the same neighborhood that Chris Rock is from. Then you have Astoria, Crown Heights, Williamsburg, Washington Heights, and then Harlem. So look at Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, and Harlem. Look at those. Over 40% in these areas. So look at how many neighborhoods. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 neighborhoods, including Bushwick. Look at Bushwick, it's 67. Plus 67 in Bushwick. I don't know if it's going to allow me to show all, but look at all those neighborhoods, right? And it says, now look at the different areas are voting. Look at the racial breakdown. Mostly white residents. Cuomo won by plus 14 points, right? Mostly Asian, and Mamdani is Asian by ethnicity. He won by plus 4, right? Mostly Hispanic is plus 20. Now look at mostly Black. This is big. Plus 26. Cuomo won 35% of the Black vote. Mamdani won 61% of the Black vote. I want to stay on this just for a second, because a lot of people early on, especially in the Democratic primary, the Black vote wasn't as significant for Mamdani. He won more on the younger Black vote versus on the older. The older Black vote went more towards Cuomo during the Democratic primary. Now, months later, you look at it. Mamdani has won handedly the Black vote by big numbers. And this shows that just because he's an immigrant, look, here's Black people's reasoning. Look, I don't care if you're an immigrant. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care if you're on the left. If you're going to improve my material conditions and you don't have bigoted ways about you, look, I'm voting for you. Because at the end of the day, it's about the economy. And that's what it's about. So to anybody who is like, oh, but the immigrants are taking our jobs and blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, this one is trying to improve conditions for everybody. And Black residents overwhelmingly said, yeah, give us Mamdani. They went with the devil that they didn't know because the devil that they did know was that bad. And so I think that's important too. So he won by the biggest margins with Black residents. Now, where Mamdani won the primary, plus 62. Cuomo won the primary, is plus 54. So mostly renters. Mamdani won 57%. Cuomo won mostly with homeowners. All right. People who use public transit, Mamdani won. People who drive their cars mostly, Cuomo won. So it's really a class issue. It is a class issue. The people who are the poorest voted for Mamdani. Here's go to breakdown by borough. 5 boroughs, Mamdani won 4 out of the 5 boroughs. %, of all the boroughs, Mamdani won. 80%. The only one that Cuomo won with Staten Island. Look, Brooklyn, he won plus 20. Manhattan, he won plus 10. Queens, he won plus 5. And the Bronx, he won plus 11. He dominated in Brooklyn. Dominated. But he won in 4 out of the 5 boroughs. So it just goes to show that Mamdani, when you speak to the economic issues and push for those, that's what wins. My question, though, is to the third parties. And people say, well, yes, it takes money to be able to get this out there. That's also true. I accept that. But at least put an attempt. At least attempt to get somebody to run, to at least be somebody that pulls Mamdani to the left. But people said yes to freezing the rent. They said yes to free buses. They said yes to city-owned grocery stores. They said yes to universal child care. They said yes to a lot of different things that would benefit the poorest among New Yorkers. And so I predicted that he would win between 8 and 10 percentage points, and he did. And so now, once January 1st happens, we shall see. I would like to see between January and late March, early April, we'll see how he does. But also, I'm anticipating to see what Donald Trump says, because Donald Trump said that he would basically try to take over New York, essentially, if Mamdani won. Well, Mamdani won. And so now it's going to be the president versus the mayor. And we're going to see how things go. It's going to be interesting, but it's going to be worth watching. Grab your popcorn, folks. It's about to be a wild ride. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching this clip and this special presentation. I hope you guys have yourself a wonderful day. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. One, forehead kisses. Have beautiful. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. One.